All right, let's open up the case file on what is, quite possibly, the biggest mystery of all time. We're talking about a cosmic detective story that begins at the very first tick of the Big Bang and leads us to a brand new, absolutely shocking clue that was just uncovered. We're going on a hunt for the universe's missing half, this vast, vast ocean of antimatter that our theories say should be everywhere, but it just isn't. So yeah, let's get into it.
It really all boils down to the most fundamental question you could possibly ask. Why is there something here instead of nothing? Why are we here? Why do stars and planets and galaxies exist? Because, and this is the crazy part, according to our best understanding of physics, none of this should be here at all.
So here's the deal. The Big Bang should have created matter and its perfect mirror image twin, antimatter, in exactly equal amounts. But here's the thing about matter and antimatter. Whenever they meet, they completely annihilate each other in a flash of pure energy. So the story of our universe should have been the shortest story ever told, right? A big flash of creation immediately followed by a big flash of total annihilation. The end. But that's obviously not what happened. We're here. All the stuff we see around us is just the leftovers. The crucial takeaway here is that our very existence is the evidence of a crime against symmetry.
Okay, so to solve this thing, we have to treat the early universe like an actual crime scene. The victim, perfect symmetry. The main suspect, some unknown law of physics that went rogue. And the missing antimatter, well, that's our missing body. Way back in 1967, the physicist Andrei Sakharov basically laid out the clues we'd need to find. Think of them as the three conditions that absolutely had to be met for this crime to happen. First, you need a process that can actually create more matter than antimatter to begin with. Second, the laws of physics themselves have to have a built-in preference, a slight bias towards matter. We call this CP violation. And third, all of this had to happen in that incredibly chaotic, super hot soup right after the Big Bang, before everything cooled down and sort of locked into place. Now, for decades, that second clue, a clear, undeniable bias in baryons, the very particles that make up you and me, was totally missing. Until now. So let's get to the smoking gun. A huge new piece of evidence has just turned up in this decades-old cold case, and it comes from the fundamental building blocks of matter itself. Get this, in a landmark paper from 2025, the LHCb experiment at CERN, the Large Hadron Collider, they announced they had finally caught a baryon red-handed. They were watching this particle called the lambda B baryon decay over and over, and they saw it behaving differently from its antimatter twin. This was it. This was the direct evidence physicists had been hunting for over 50 years. And we're not talking about a small hint here. No way. The result had a statistical significance of 5.2 standard deviations, or what physicists call 5 sigma. In particle physics, that is the absolute gold standard. It means the odds of this just being a random fluke are less than 1 in 3.5 million. So this is a confirmed discovery. The clue is real. So, what exactly did they find? They found CP violation. Now, it sounds super complicated, but the idea behind it is actually pretty profound. Just imagine a particle and its antimatter twin. You'd think they would be perfect mirror images, right? Behaving in exactly opposite ways. But CP violation means they don't. It's this tiny, built-in glitch in the matrix, where the laws of physics themselves just don't treat a particle and its antimatter reflection in the exact same way. And that tiny little preference, when you multiply it by billions and billions of particles in the early universe, is enough to build everything. Okay, so we have our clue. Now, let's take a look at the official theory of the case, the one that comes from our current best rulebook for how the universe works, the Standard Model of Particle Physics. The Standard Model has this really beautiful, elegant explanation for all of this. It says that the lambda B baryon can decay in 2 different ways at the quantum level, a simple, direct path and a much more complex loop path. And just like 2 waves in a pond, these 2 quantum paths can interfere with each other. For the regular particle, they might add up, but for the antiparticle, maybe they cancel each other out just a little bit. And it's that interference pattern that creates the asymmetry. But here's the problem. It's a huge problem. While the theory is super elegant, it has a fatal flaw. When you actually do the math, the amount of asymmetry the Standard Model predicts is tiny. We're talking orders of magnitude too small to explain why the universe is so full of matter. It's like finding a single footprint at a crime scene where an entire army vanished. The explanation just doesn't fit the scale of the crime. And this
This is where our story takes a really wild turn. There's a radical new theory on the block called the TCGS framework, and it suggests that the reason our clue doesn't fit the official theory is because we fundamentally misunderstood the nature of reality itself. Okay, so on the one hand, we have our standard view of the universe. 3 dimensions of space, evolving and changing through time. But this TCGS framework, it proposes something that will bend your brain a little. It says our universe is actually a static, timeless, 4-dimensional block. Time doesn't really flow. Instead, the past, the present, and the future, all of it, exists simultaneously as one single geometric object. What we experience as the flow of time is just our consciousness moving through the different slices of this block. And this is where it gets really interesting. The central idea here is this metaphor, the map versus the territory. TGCS says that our entire 3D universe, everything we can see and touch, is just a map, or maybe a shadow, that's being projected from a much more real 4D territory. It's basically Plato's cave. We are living on the wall, and all of our laws of physics are just the rules that describe how the shadows move. So, if we are just shadows, how does that completely flip our interpretation of that clue from CERN? I mean, how are we supposed to understand our own existence if it's all just a projection from somewhere else? And this right here is what makes this new theory so powerful. It doesn't throw out the evidence from CERN. It just reinterprets it in a completely new language, the language of geometry. That quantum weak phase that physicists measure, TCGS says that's the physical evidence of a literal twist in the 4D block itself. And the strong phase? That's just the curvature of our 3D shadow. So the asymmetry, the reason we exist, isn't some event that happened way back in time. It's a permanent, baked-in feature of the geometry. Our universe is dominated by matter because the object casting our shadow is fundamentally twisted or chiral, kind of like how your left and right hands are mirror images but not identical.
Now let's look at the actual data again, through this new lens. Remember how the LHCb experiment found the asymmetry was super high in some specific resonant regions, but almost zero everywhere else? The standard model really has a hard time explaining why it's so localized. But for TCGS, it's simple. Those resonances? They're just the shadows of sharp creases or singularities on the surface of the 4D object. The asymmetry is strongest right there because that's where the geometric twist is the most intense. It's not a puzzle, it's a prediction.
Okay, let's just zoom out for a second here. Because if this geometric view of reality is even remotely correct, the implications are absolutely staggering. It suggests that maybe the matter-antimatter mystery isn't the only great scientific puzzle that's just a projection artifact.
And this slide, this is the theory's most audacious claim. It's proposing that 3 of the biggest mysteries in all of science are connected. The mystery of dark matter, not some weird invisible particle, but a shadow effect caused by the way our 3D universe is curved within the 4D space. The evolution of life, maybe not just random chance, but a shadow of a complex, pre-existing 4D structure. And the CP violation we've been talking about this whole time, that's a direct measurement of the geometric handedness of reality itself. 3 huge problems, potentially solved not as separate puzzles, but as different shadows cast by the very same object.
And that, of course, leaves us with the ultimate question. We started this whole thing by asking why do we exist, and we found that the answer might literally be written into the geometry of a timeless 4D reality. The entire investigation completely shifts, doesn't it? It goes from searching for new particles down here in the shadows to trying to figure out the shape of the object casting them. So if our universe, our laws of physics, even our own existence, are just shadows on the wall, what is the object casting them?